Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tough Love Tuesday. I'm excited about this. Today, I want to talk about probably the number one question that I get from people, which is, why can't I make changes stick? Why do I get really excited about a plan, embark on it for 2 weeks, and then nosedive and beat myself up? Why do I have these goals for myself that I can't seem to make headway on? I'm going to give you the answer to that. And I will tell you, if you can implement this in your life, it will change your entire life. You will blow your own mind. And I'm also going to warn you that it's going to seem incredibly simple, but this truly is the answer. So again, why can't I make changes stick? Why can't I be consistent? Why are other people successful with long-term change, but I'm not? So it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're incapable. It's not because you have bad genes, and it has nothing to do with whatever unfortunate situation you might be in, for better or worse. The difference between people who are successful with long-term change and those who aren't is how they talk to themselves and what they tell themselves all day long. That is it. There is no fancy plan, although a good plan is helpful. There is no fancy supplement, although good supplements are helpful. The only difference between people who can sustain long-term change and those who can't sustain long-term change is how they talk to themselves all day. And I am going to break that down for you, and I'm going to teach you how to make that change in your own life. So the most common things that I hear from people who are struggling to stick to a plan, such as my mental health nutrition plan, it's too restrictive. I feel deprived. I feel like a weirdo, and people make fun of me for eating this way. What if I try it and it doesn't work out for me? This is unsustainable, and there's no way that I can do this long term. Those are the things that I hear from people all of the time. And I just want to say that I totally get it, because several years ago when I first started eating this way, I thought all of those things too. I was having a massive pity party about especially like how my coworkers were treating me. And yeah, I was just down in the dumps about all of it, and it seemed really, really hard. But what happened is I stuck with it for a month. I was like, dang it, I'm going to give this a month. I'm going to give this my all. I'm just going to see what happens. So even though I felt, I was saying crappy things to myself in my head, I gave it a month. And by the end of that month, I saw such drastic change that there was just no turning back at all. And what I realized was it wasn't the plan itself that was making me uncomfortable. It was the thoughts that I was having about what I was doing. The plan itself is just the plan. The thing that was making it suck was how I was thinking about it. So I realized unconsciously, but pretty quickly, that if I wanted to stick with the plan, which I desperately wanted to because it was the first thing out of a bajillion things that I tried that helped my depression and anxiety, I realized unconsciously, like, I have to choose a new way of thinking about this. So the new thoughts that I formed for myself were things like, I am so grateful that I finally figured out a way to help my depression and anxiety. I would say that was my number one thought. I am so excited that I get to eat healthy food and heal my body. I still say that to myself every single day. I am so encouraged by the changes I've already seen, and I'm ready to see more. I love finding ways to be creative in the kitchen. I love the challenge, and I love giving back to myself in this way. And I love that I am changing my relationship with myself. Those were the things that I told myself every day. Those are the things that I continue to tell myself every day, even when it's hard. And that is the only reason that I've maintained this lifestyle for years, is because I chose to tell myself a different story about what it all meant. And so it really is true that what you think is going to dictate your outcome with all of this. So I just want to run you through a quick little model of this. So if you're thinking to yourself all day long, if you're knuckling through and you're trying to stick to the plan, but you're thinking, man, I feel really deprived. I feel really deprived. My coworker's having a cinnamon roll. I feel really deprived. I feel really deprived. How is that going to make you feel? That's going to make you feel resentful. It's going to feel unfair. You're going to feel left out. And when you feel that way, that is going to drive your actions. If you feel resentful, pissy, this is unfair, I feel left out, I feel unincluded, that's not going to support healthy behavior. That's going to support your self-sabotage. So if you're feeling all of those negative emotions, you're probably then going to go dive face first into the cinnamon roll or the whatever. And so you took that action of having the cinnamon roll. And then what is the result that you get from that? The result that you get from that is that you're upset at yourself that you threw in the towel again, and you let yourself down. And that goes back to proving your original thought, which was feeling deprived. So that is how the thoughts, feelings, actions, and results play out when you have negative thoughts about what you're doing all day long. Now let's flip that and let's see what happens if you have a positive thought. So let's say you're in the same exact situation. You're at work, your coworker's eating cinnamon rolls, donuts, or whatever, and instead of feeling deprived, maybe you initially feel a little bit deprived, but then you catch yourself and you're like, nope, I got to flip that thought. So let's say the new thought is, I'm so encouraged by the changes I've already seen and I'm ready to see more. If you anchor yourself in that thought, even though it's a bad situation around you, you are going to feel hopeful, you're going to feel inspired, you're going to feel encouraged, and those positive feelings are then going to drive your action. What is your action going to be if you feel inspired, hopeful, and encouraged? Your action is going to be to say, no, thank you, and then you're going to reach for, whatever snack you brought yourself to work that day. And then your result is that you feel good about the fact that you stuck to your plan, and you'll continue to see positive results because you stuck to your plan. You won't have digestive upset. You won't get anxiety from eating too much sugar. And then the result then goes back to prove that original thought, which was, I'm so encouraged by the changes I've seen and I'm ready to see more. Now, I know this sounds really simple and you may be rolling your eyes and thinking like, oh yeah, just change my thoughts. Super easy. I've been struggling with depression for years. Like, how am I going to do that? Like, that's definitely how I would have reacted if you would have broken this down for me several years ago. But it really is true that your thoughts are going to dictate your outcome. And if you keep having crappy thoughts, you're going to keep having crappy outcomes. One more, I'm just going to read a question here before I keep going. Do you think it is as simple as change your thoughts, change your life? I see that quote all the time and it gives me a lot of hope. Actually, I do, Christine. And like I said, a few years ago, I would have looked at a quote like that and rolled my eyes. But the more that I study personal development and mindset and habit change and human psychology, which is actually what I'm more interested in than nutrition these days, because I can give people stellar plans all day long, but if they have crappy thoughts about their stellar plan that I gave them and they can't stick to their stellar plan that I gave them, there's no point in them having a stellar plan in the first place that they can't even implement and they can't even stick to. So it is as simple as change your thoughts, change your life. Yes, Marissa, mindset is everything. But I think sometimes if we look at quotes and we look at memes and we look at, we don't break it down a little bit more and we keep it like that simplistic meme quotey thing, that's when we tend to dismiss it. But this really is the truth, and this really is how you change your life. This is how I unconsciously changed my life, and then I realized, oh, that's how I did it. I changed my thoughts, after I'm learning all of these coaching tools to try to help other people, and I realized I've been implementing them all along. Um, so yeah, so you saw me run through the model of thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And if you have a crappy thought, you end up with a crappy result. If you have an amazing thought, you end up with an amazing result. But the issue is that we are all hardwired to think negatively. Even if you don't struggle with serious depression or anxiety, all human beings are hardwired to think negatively. It's part of our ancestry and our heritage and how we protected ourselves. You know, if we're running out there on the savannas and we are being chased by a tiger, you know, our brain is going to say like, oh crap, you're being chased by a tiger, better do something about that. Most of us aren't being chased by tigers anymore, but we still have that negative reactive mindset of, let me go to the worst case scenario. Let me go to the worst case scenario. And what we have to do is we have to stop going to the worst case scenario. So if you have a habit and you know you're hardwired to think negatively, and if you have depression and anxiety on top of it, and it's like even worse, and you don't know how you're going to break through that iceberg of negative thinking, what do? You have to create new patterns, new neural networks in your mind, to allow positivity to happen. Basically, you have to override those really well-worn paths in your brain. And the only way to do that is to feed your brain good things. That's going to look different for different people. Me personally, and I will tell you, after years of working on myself, my brain is still an asshole. My brain still tells me I'm a failure. Everything sucks. Nothing is going to work out. But the reason I'm able to keep going is I feed my brain really good stuff every day. So I read a lot of personal development books. I listen to inspirational podcasts. I unfollow people on social media who make me feel like crap. I have really awesome friends. I weed out the ones that aren't awesome. And I just surround myself with as much positivity as I can, even when I'm not feeling super positive, because that's how I get my brain to shut up. And what will backfire is if you do this for 3 weeks and you're like, oh, I'm good, I'm feeling positive, and then you stop doing it. Ask me how I know. So the number one thing I could tell you to change your life, to change your relationship with food, to stick to your habits, to be consistent, isn't, you know, to tell you to eat fewer carbs or more carbs or take a supplement. It's start feeding your brain really good stuff. Yeah, Christine, doing a social media cleanse is absolutely a must. And if you do that long enough and you do that consistently enough, I do it every morning, you will start to notice a change. And when you tell yourself different things about what you're doing, you're going to get a different outcome. And the last thing that I want to say about this is don't expect perfection. That's where you will get into some tricky water. If you're trying to do a plan, let's say you're trying to do the Whole30 or something, and you screw up. If you go off plan, or you have a bad meal, or you have a bad night and you get away from your goals, the worst thing you can do is make it mean something. So if you have cake and you didn't want to, and then you tell yourself a really disempowering story about that, like, oh, I had cake, that just goes to show that I'm a failure and I can't stick to my plan and I suck and might as well just have 20 more pieces of cake because I'm a total F up, you're not going to get a good result. But if you tell yourself, well, I had cake and that was a thing and it happened, and the next meal is the next meal, and you don't make it mean anything, you don't give it any weight, you don't obsess about it, you just let it go, then you can really start to implement these changes long term. So if bad things happen, don't make them mean something. Hi, Helen. I also think motivation is a huge factor. After you have good thoughts, unless you have motivation, it still won't happen. Saying you're motivated won't make it happen. You have to feel it fervently. With motivation, you can do anything. Yeah, I agree. And what is motivation? Where does motivation come from? Motivation is a feeling. How do we get feelings? Where do feelings come from? Have you ever wondered that? Like Like, are feelings just random? Do they just attack us? If you have empathic tendencies, that is sometimes true. But feelings come from our thoughts. So if we're having a thought that is unmotivating, we are going to feel unmotivated. If we are having a thought that is positive and empowering and encourages us to get up and do something, we're going to feel motivated. So anytime you're not feeling motivated, ask yourself, well, what am I thinking that's causing me to feel unmotivated? So that was awesome, Helen. Thank you for bringing that up. Before I log off, it looks like there's quite a few of you here. Do you have any questions on this, or even like skepticism, or things that you've noticed in your own life that you want to share? Just type them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Just take a sip of water. I'm just going to hang on, make sure nobody has any questions while I'm here. All right, I'm not going to stand here awkwardly too long, but I really hope you found this video helpful. And if you do have any questions, just type them in the comments. I'll come back after the replay. I may even do more videos on this, just because it is it's such an important topic, and this is more and more I am doing this thought work in my practice. I do plans for people. I do supplements for people. They're really, really helpful, but unless you can implement the plan isn't going to do anything. So this is actually something I've been having a lot of fun with, working with people. Helen, what do your clients have the hardest time changing? I would actually say it's their mindset. So the food, the supplements, the routine, the exercise, that's all doable. But the thought patterns, I will tell you, like I've showed you the thought breakdown and how to go about changing your thought, but actually doing the work is a lot harder. So people have a hard time changing their thoughts and changing their mindset. And I think a lot of that is actually because we are unconscious about the negative thoughts that we're having. And very often we need somebody else to point out what those thoughts are. I know over the years I've worked with a lot of different healers and coaches and therapists, and for me personally, it has been and even just like close friends, like pointing out, like, hey, Holly, you do realize you're coming at it from this really terrible angle, and that's a thought that you're choosing, and you can choose a different thought. Liz, what would you say to somebody who feels like they are sacrificing so much to feel good? So sacrificing, like in terms of being on a restrictive diet, maybe sacrificing time out with friends, because they have to get a lot of sleep, or they're on a healing protocol or something like that. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Liz. Somebody who feels like they're sacrificing so much to feel good. I definitely have felt like this at times on my own journey, because, I do eat a really specific way. Okay, awesome, yes. I don't party anymore. I don't drink. And there have been times when, I felt like I was sacrificing, or I felt like I was restricted. But for me personally, feeling good is more important than anything. I know what it feels like to feel bad, to feel terrible, to feel awful. There have been times in my life where I felt like a dog sitting in a tiny cage filling up with its own excrement. Like, I know what it feels like to feel bad, and I never, ever, ever want to feel like that again. And because I've done the hard work and I know how it feels to feel good, like, I just can't imagine going back to that place. So, so if this was somebody that I was coaching, like, if they're at that place of feeling good, like, have them write down all of the benefits, or talk through all of the benefits of feeling good, and then reflect on what it's like to feel bad, what it's like to not have your health, what it's like to be constantly depressed. And very often when you can make the day-to-day drudgery of healing and, you know, eating well and taking care of yourself, when you can really reflect and see all of the positive changes that have happened for you because of that, all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, I'm being ridiculous. Like, yeah, I'm making a sacrifice, but look at all of these things that I've gained from it. And that's really the mindset that you have to take if you want this to be a long-term change, if you want to keep feeling better and better and better. Yeah, it's totally easy to forget how bad we felt. And I actually, I have this saying that I talk about with clients sometimes, and I call it the benefit of the backslide. So sometimes I'll have a client on a plan, they'll be doing really, really, really well for like a couple months, and then they'll totally nosedive and like eat a bunch of things that they know don't agree with them, and then they'll come into a session and they'll be like, I ate this thing and I felt like garbage and I never want to do that again. So sometimes being reminded of what bad feels like every time I get glutened and I gain 10 pounds of water weight overnight and I have brain fog and anxiety attacks because I ate gluten, I'm like, oh, that's what bad feels like. Yeah, I don't want to do that again. Don't want to go back there. And all of this is definitely worth it. So yeah, don't ever forget how bad you felt. You know, I remind myself constantly how crappy my life used to be to keep myself in check, because it's easy to negate our own progress, for sure. Yeah. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. If you were watching the replay and you have any questions or comments, leave them for me and I'll get to them. But happy Tuesday. Take care, and I'll talk with you guys soon. Bye. Oh, I'm still live. I thought I clicked finish. I didn't.